Thank you. So my name is Amory Williams, and I'm the founder of Kaizen Collab. Kaizen Collab is the easiest way for manufacturing and distribution companies to manage cost reduction projects. Okay. So about a year ago, Deloitte published a study on the Fortune 1000 companies. And basically, they asked their leaders, what strategic priorities are you focused on for the year? 45% of those leaders reported that cost reduction was a part of their strategic priority, basically saying that they're really focused on reducing the operational costs so they can present better in the market and compete better in the market. However, 55% of those companies basically said that they're not meeting those cost reduction goals. And that really boils down to they're having issues with implementing particular actions that are going to reduce the cost. So in other words, they've identified the actions that it takes to reduce costs, but when they go to the end of the year, they're not actually seeing those things implemented. So to put this study into perspective, I wanted to just tell a story that actually came from me. So spent 10 years in manufacturing, started my career off at GE, and part of my job with GE was to basically do a lot of this cost reduction where we would look at processes and reduce the cost that it took to manufacture a product. So long story short, worked on a project that was a part of this jet engine, and we basically took this blade and reduced that cost down by $2.5 million, which was awesome. But we also saw the opportunity to share our best practice across 15 other locations within GE. So if we were able to manage and implement those changes, the company would have saved an additional $37.5 million. So the expectation of sharing that process was basically this. They wanted to see a straightforward process where you would share the improvements, tell the plants how you came up with this idea, give them the standard work of basically implementing this improvement, and ultimately they would see that number at the bottom line. However, the reality of it was the sharing of these best practices weren't as easy. There are about 4 or 5 different systems that we use to manage and track these projects, from spreadsheets to SharePoint, a lot of disconnected parts. So we didn't really have the tools that we needed to share these best practices as well as monitor them to ensure that they're seeing that savings at the bottom line. So because of that huge disconnect, only 2 of the locations were actually able to fully implement those improvements, which meant that we lost the opportunity of $32.5 million. So that's where Kaizen Collab comes in. We're the easiest way to manage these cost reduction projects. We basically go by 3 simple steps. So first, you enter a project so you will solve it. It identifies the business case, any pictures, documents that further explain that improvement you've had with the company. 2, you monitor it, so you capture the key metrics. You're monitoring the action items to make sure that they're getting implemented. And then 3rd, the sustainment piece is where leadership would come in. If there is any underperforming activity, the leaders will be notified so they can step in. Okay. A couple of benefits the company sees with Kaizen Collab. Thank you. The first one is that it's really easy to share cost improvements. So as I stated, there are a lot of locations within an organization, and a lot of times they have very similar processes. So with our platform, when you make an improvement at one location, you can easily go in there, find it if you're basically wanting to share that best practice. 2, it automates a lot of communication. In a implementation process, communication is key. So we set out to build features where you would basically automate the communication of new projects, follow-up tasks, anything that's going to basically close out that implementation. And then 3rd, we build very intuitive dashboards so leaders can easily see how their projects are performing, and they're getting, again, key notifications that say, hey, this $3 million project is behind. So how we compare, so these are some of our competitors. This is a very niche market. There aren't a lot of tools out there that really support this type of project. So one is KaiNexus, who's really focused on the healthcare industry, and the other is iNexus, who's focused on all industries. However, they lack some of the tools that's needed to capture this type of project, such as metric tracking. So our focus is manufacturing and distribution. Since I got the 1 minute, we have 741,000 companies or firms in the manufacturing distribution market, and we are focused on firms that have 100 or more employees, which gives us a $1.8 billion market. Our business model is pretty straightforward. We offer annual subscriptions, and it ranges from $1,200, which it usually goes to consultants, and if you're a large enterprise like a GE, it would be $100,000. So we launched about 6 months ago, and we've been able to build a really great pipeline, basically by providing that interest through social media. So this is real time how our pipeline looks. And for 2018, we are focused on getting 30 customers by basically going about this marketing strategy, which would lead to an annual recurring revenue of $1.35 million. So here's our team. So as I stated, I've been in this industry for 10 years. Also have a co-founder who's in marketing, and then we're also bringing on sales reps. Okay, and our annual projections. So for 2017, we'll close at $75,000 in revenue. And again, that marketing and sales strategy, that's where we're going to focus to bring in $1.35 million. Okay, and we're seeking 750 for our seed round, and again, most of that is going to go towards building that marketing and sales team that we need to get this product out into the market. Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Now, I love the accelerator program that you guys are part of, because your presentations are so thorough, and it just covers so many of the questions that I think a lot of people probably have in mind. So Ricky's smiling over there, so you should come and talk about it sometimes, because I think there's a lot of people who come here each week who might benefit from actually being a part of the program and learning more about it. So you should definitely let us know who you are and what you're helping all of these people to accomplish, because it's obviously working. So great applause to all of you, and thank you so much for being here. So we are going to kick off our second round of Q&A. Same rules. I'm heading back out 14 minutes for questions. David, do you have any questions? You feel like you might be thinking about something? No? I know some people because they're here every week. So
Kaizen Collab.
Yeah, good presentation. I agree with the last two of them. Great. I've got a question. So you are only working with companies that have identified their own projects for you to basically manage. You're not in there consulting on what else they're missing.
Correct. Well, it's basically a hybrid. So 90% of it is exactly that, where they already have a team that's have already been identified to focus on cost reduction. So it's not that they're necessarily looking for or needing any advice there. So our platform does focus more so on managing the projects that they've already identified. For smaller companies, we do go in and do some consulting. So it does bring in about 10% of our revenue.
Okay, and then as far as managing those, so you've got one team that's set their platform and said, we've identified these. How is that transition of taking their ideas and their narrative and bringing it onto your platform? How is that working? Because you've got someone with their, again, like let's say I came in and I did the consulting. Mm-hmm. How long does it take you to really kind of identify what I've done and what I've noticed and what I'm suggesting, bringing it into your platform and implementing that?
So let me make sure I understand the question. So if I'm a consultant, how do you translate the ideas that I've had and bring them into the software? Okay. So the way the platform is set up, it's more so a database, right? So if you're a consultant or if you work for a company like GE, that platform or that structure that you use to identify problems and come up with these solutions is the same. So in terms of them using the software, they would take that information, build their business case into the system, and then they will track and monitor it the same. We actually just signed on another consultant last week, and he had about 5 different projects he was working on with a company, and he wanted to use the platform because it gave him the ability to track and monitor everything that was going on when he wasn't there to make sure that it's being implemented and he can, see that cost savings for that company.
So you're more focused on the actual consultant side of it versus the actual going to businesses directly that have had problems identified.
We're more so focused on the businesses who have this project. On average, companies already have about $8.5 million in their pipeline, so they're just looking for a better way to manage that pipeline, not come up with more ideas. So our biggest focus is on managing that pipeline, and a small bit of focus is consulting when they need it.
No. What I was saying is your business, what your customer that you're acquiring, is it the business that you're acquiring or the consultant that's driving the work through your platform?
It's the business.
Seems to me that it would be easier if you went to consultant side because, again, you have a consultant maybe managing 10 projects, and you have a business that you have to find that's gone to that step that may have one.
So, and that's why we do both. So one, again, it's more so these companies, like the ones that I pulled up in the pipeline, they already have a team, so they're not looking for, So the companies that we have in our evaluation process and who we've invoiced, again, they already have a continuous improvement team, so they're not even working with consultants. So we go to them first because they already have a pipeline. They've already identified the problem. So.
So a related question to that is that what kind of a resistance that you face when you go and talk to those teams? Because every institution like that would have a team which is focused on improvement and getting a value add, right? So my question is that what kind of a resistance that you face and what is your value proposition that you make that will let them listen to you, that in addition to the team that is in-house, let's have a Kaizen team also from outside?
Yep, no, that's a great question. So the thing that we focus on the most is the fact that we save you more time. So if you're an in-house continuous improvement or lean person, it's a lot of work to chase down these updates. So when you use our platform, we basically automate a lot of your tasks, which again saves you that time.
So the value is using the platform and repeatable processes that you are building using those platforms.
Yes.
Okay.
So you mentioned you have two competitors, but how do you differentiate yourself between a spreadsheet and yourself?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the fact that a spreadsheet is very limited, even if you get to the point where you're programming with macros, at the same time, it doesn't capture action items. It doesn't send you notifications. So you don't have a spot to upload key information like pictures, standard work, which leads to the disconnected process I talked about earlier, where you're using 4 or 5 systems just to manage this program. So that's where we stand out from spreadsheets. In terms of the competitors, there aren't any solutions that have this full process. They may do a good job with tracking or titling the project and then giving you a place to update a couple of information pieces, but nothing out there basically represents the full cycle of this implementation process.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. Have you considered going to local chapters of, say, Project Management Institute and becoming a member of that? They have over almost 500,000 project managers in that organization and doing some outreach and getting project managers to become familiar with your product and start using it. And that way they can be the salespeople or, you know, the lead for whatever projects they're working on.
No, it's a great idea. That's a great one.
Can you go back to your financials for a minute? How are you keeping your operations costs so low?
Right now is me focusing on this for full time, and everyone else is basically commission based. So low overhead in terms of labor. Operationally, the platform has been built, and a lot of it has the focus has gone towards free marketing. So in terms of the full operations, right now we don't have a lot of overhead.
So you're not really project management. I mean, how do you talk about managing the process and helping them solve their problem, but what do you do specifically to help keep a project on target and on task?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So key difference between, just a regular project and this type of project, which would fall into the category of lean, which what we call lean manufacturing. So with a lean manufacturing product or project is a couple of factors. So first you have to thoroughly define this. So you're identifying what problem you're having at your plant or your facility, where you basically summarize the impact to the business. Two, you have to understand what metrics need to be in place. So for example, if I'm working on a warehouse project where I'm streamlining the efficiency process, then I need to know what metrics that I need to monitor to basically say that this product or this project is very impactful. The other thing you would need is to find a way to analyze it. So we have features in there that would help you basically get to a point where you're using the lean tools to help you analyze it. And then there's like the control aspect of it. You want to make sure that you're using key features and tools to ensure that the project isn't falling behind or falling through the cracks. So with a typical project management platform, you're basically managing just action items. But this is, like I said, more detailed and it's more niche and related to lean.
Hi, great presentation. I love how you build on your personal experience and tell the story of the problem that you face. You've got credibility in spades when it comes to presenting this type of concept. Wanted to build off something that Todd had spoken to about consultants as a potential target. Think of them not as your customer, but perhaps as an extension of business development, where that consultant could be earning a commission for each client that they bring you. And think of it from the company standpoint. If the consultant they've hired to help solve an issue recommends a software solution, they're more likely to accept it at face value, and that would help you then to focus your business development efforts on the individual companies. So that may be a way to kind of rethink how consultants could help you be extending your reach and just give up a little bit of margin to make that happen.
Okay, no, it's a great point. It's a great point. Thank you.
Sure.
What type of integration points that your software supports so that it can integrate to the company's in-house ERP or any other systems? Is this a single standing software, or how does it integrate? Or is it in your product roadmap?
Yeah, at this point, we're listening to our customers. So right now it is a standalone platform, but we want to know from our customers what integrations they would need so it would be in the future. At this point, interesting enough, they haven't identified anything because most of the things that they're using right now is just standalone. Even if it's in an Excel spreadsheet, it's not really tied to anything. So definitely some potential in the future. We just haven't seen it yet.
I love the name. And the name is not tied to project management. It's tied to quality. Kaizen is tied to quality. We haven't heard that buzzword in a long time. I love the name. I want to learn more about your collaborative side, though. You had SharePoint, you had the spreadsheets. What are most of the quality teams in major corporations? Now, we know mid-sized companies, most of them don't have a quality assurance team. Do you work with quality assurance teams?
We do. We do hugely.
Yes.
Because they are, if you're improving, the GE example I gave was really a quality project. We had a lot of defects on that, and you are essentially reducing the cost when you focus on this. So we do work with quality teams.
And they're not willing to sacrifice quality to reduce costs, most of the companies at that level. So that's where that space to me is, not in project management. Yes, they have people that work in project management there, but it's quality.
All right.
Well, again, in another amazing presentation, I'm very impressed, and it seems like you have all of the answers, but I'm going to ask anyway, what can we do to help you?
And Sonia already hit on this a lot, but people is a huge gap, you know, in terms of us having them to get us to where we need to be, particularly in sales. So if you guys know any good B2B software salespeople, that would be awesome. And then the other disconnect is, again, paying those people, so funding. So any angel networks or investors that would be interested in this space, that connection would be awesome.
Are you taking on your salespeople on project basis so that you can compensate them in that way, or are you looking to bring people on full time?
Right now, we have to, just because we don't have the funds to pay them a full-time salary. So we are doing it more so on project base, but we would like to hire 2 sales reps so they can fully focus on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie and Sonia, for being here, and Jessica for helping to get them here. Thank you all.